All right, so for the engine mounts, I decided to botch the original plate just because it was making my life harder. So what I came up with was a plate of steel that's gonna go from, let me see here. It's gonna go from these two bolt holes, this is a flat plane, these two right here, and then curve to this one right here. And then that will allow us to kind of make an angled plate with bracing that comes out about here, and then this guy's just gonna come straight off and intersect somewhere right over here. So I did a hole and a flat plate here. That's gonna bolt in right there. And then the hard part about this is just, well, it's kind of hard to hold this all up here, but there's a body line there. So I did a relief cut, and now we just have to tap that guy till we get about to the angle of the unibody. Now, typically I would just weld like onto a frame, and I would have honestly probably been done one side if not the other, but the unibody's pretty thin. So it'll be bolt, 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 and then it'll get 2 to 3 of these bolts up here as well. So it'll be hanging off of this, sitting on this here, and then here. So it'll be this piece. I'll make a piece that'll go up here, weld to that piece, and a piece that'll go here, weld to that with holes. Now I don't want to bend it too much, so I'm going to run out and try that. If that works, perfect. Then we'll end up welding that once we get everything else cut and, you know, measured and everything like that. Crude fitment, but we can make it work. Okay. All right, guys, so this series is mostly, or this version of the video is kind of the engine mounts part of this build. So I've been working, I haven't worked on this thing in like 2 weeks, just been swamped with work and doing some other projects, but I've got one side of the engine mount, so from the TDI to the Jeep itself, totally done. I say totally done. I've got some braces I need to add because right now it's just wings. So I'm gonna add some bracing, and then the passenger side mount will be totally done. Now that I've done that one, I pretty much can kind of copy and paste what I made for the driver's side with a few different tweaks. So I'll show you what we're looking at. This is what we've got for a mount right here. So you can see we've got, side note, I didn't end up using anything on the Jeep. It just didn't work. I had to start over from scratch. Not saying you have to do it that way. I chose to do it that way. So we've got this big old piece right here. So it bolts up there, and then 3 bolts right there into the unibody. The piece here you've already seen, obviously, in one of my previous videos, and then with just a wing on the top of it. We are off to this side, which is kind of the same idea, just a lot tighter to work in, so that'll make it a little bit more interesting. But from my measuring, it looks like as long as I remake one of these, exactly the same, just with the bolt holes in different locations, this will fit over here in this upper part, and then I'll just be doing kind of similar thing off that other side with the wing like that. I already went ahead and cut out the first part here, this wing right here, so that'll get notched and bent. And then we just got to load up the rest of the files, and I am running low on steel, but I think I got enough to do the rest of that driver's side. Fingers crossed. I've got some scrap stuff laying around too that would probably work. But okay, guys, so I have not done a great job at videoing how I'm making these engine mounts, and it's kind of mostly just due to how hard it is to try to video all this and make them. And quite honestly, it's very monotonous. You've already seen the rough general shape of them. So what I'm basically doing now, I'm gonna set this down on the tripod and I'll show you. Let me set this down. So basically we kind of got like the rough general shape. So this is my passenger side mount that goes on the TDI block. So try not to make this very lengthy because it's not really that important. Basically what I did was I remade the Jeep mounts but different and moved the mount farther back towards the firewall. They did have some holes. One of these is threaded, one of these needs tapped, and then the other one, I think, has thread. So these all line up with already factory holes in the Jeep unibody frame. So I went with this. This is very complicated other than just like welding onto an actual frame, but I didn't know what the correct way to really stiffen, like if I was to weld just like a plate onto the, like ideally I would have welded just a plate on the unibody and built off of that. It probably could do that. I probably could have run like a 12-inch long piece along the unibody, tied it into the top, the bottom, and it would have been fine. I just didn't want to chance it like twisting the unibody or slowly starting to like peel it apart, kind of like a banana. I don't even know if that's a realistic potential, but I didn't want to chance it. So I said, well, Jeep made a mount like this, I'll do the same. So it sits up against the frame like the unibody like this. It's got some bolts in the top, again, factory studs that were already there, bolts here. So it's tied to the top and the main part of the unibody, and then this wing is where the engine mount, which I'm going with these guys. I think I showed y'all earlier in the video. These are just a universal kind of, you know, post, like a stud all the way through kind of mount. It's gonna go like that. The part that goes on the TDI obviously mates up to it just like that. So that's kind of the gist of it. All this has already been measured, everything's been test fitted, it all fits perfect. So now all that to say, this is 1 piece, 2 piece, 3, 4 pieces of 3/16, which is super beefy. And then now, maybe you could leave this just like this. It's welded side, back. It's very strong. I'm not gonna chance it. I don't want this to ever flex. So what I've been doing, this is the, this would be the driver's side. This mount is totally done. So this is the same deal. Mounts on the Jeep. Engine mount sits in there. And then I've got these gussets, which again, guys, I mean, it looks overkill and it's heavy. Like, it's gotta be like 6-7 pounds, but I know it's not going anywhere. Mount drops right in here like this. Perfect, just enough clearance. I also had to make them so wide to fit these mounts in there without them, you know, rubbing. Again, I probably could have done skinnier gussets, but overkill is the name of my game, especially when it comes to an engine sitting on a unibody like this. So you do whatever you want to do. This is the route I went. It took way longer. I would have preferred to just weld to the unibody and then build a basic mount off of that. Would have been way simpler. And then this is the TDI part. Don't mind my overcut hole there. Kind of had to give it a little wiggle room because my first cut was a little off. So you can see this one goes up against the engine like this, and then mount sits on it like that. So this side is totally done. I'm leaving the welds, like I'm not gonna grind them down at all on this one. They looked good enough for what it is, and it'll keep it nice and strong. I cleaned up the welds on these guys because they're welded front and back, plenty strong. And then I'll keep obviously like the welds on the sides. It's not the prettiest welds ever, but some of them looked pretty decent, but I'll keep those. So that set of mounts, driver's side mounts, are totally done. I did have a little bit of warping now that I'm looking at it, which, I mean, it is what it is. I'm not too worried about it. I'll bolt it tight to the engine and it's not gonna go anywhere. So these are the mounts I'm using. Driver's side mount is totally done. The passenger side mount is 1 gusset away, and this probably is enough gusset, really, honestly. This is probably fine, but me being me, I'm gonna go overkill. So basically what I've been doing for the gussets, and I'm sorry, this is a lot of talking, that's kind of why I haven't been videoing it, but I'm just using cardboard to make it fast and easy, and I'm just kind of, you know, every gusset is different, so I'm kind of just making a bunch of different gussets. So I kind of get my mount in here, how it's gonna sit, make sure everything's got clearance around the sides. And then this one, to give clearance, since I've got a bolt right here, I'm gonna do this one off of the edge like that. Now, I'm running out of steel on this, but basically what I do is I put the simple trace feature on, which is this guy right here. I take this guy and you just hook it onto the arc droid. Again, this is designed for this. Gotta raise it up a little bit. Some other plasma cutters also offer, or CNCs offer, this similar function. If I could get it on there ever. And then you just plug this end in back onto the machine itself, and then it lights up red and it's ready to trace. I go to the end of my triangle, click the button. Oh, that's actually not gonna work. Center it, then click the button. Drag it, I'm not holding the button down. click again, drag it to the other end of my face, click again. Just literally following my shape here, kind of holding it as best I can. Again, this doesn't need to be perfect, so if it's not, that's fine. Click again. So you can see on the screen, well, you can't really. But, so you can kind of see on the screen, we have this roughly traced out. So all right, and then that one's boxed in, totally done. So I'll kind of clean the slag out of it best I can. All of these are gonna be getting powder coated, but that mount is totally done. So perfect, everything fits. Engine mount fits right down in there, no problem. So another one done. So I was unable to remake this wing, but I was able to just push it out on the sides as much as possible. Kind of had a little bit of a gap to fill, but it was just enough to allow this guy to seat down in place. Still floating a little. I actually shouldn't have put a little bit of weld right there. So got to clean them up, just run the grinder, the flap disc over them. But this guy fits here like this. And then I just got done cooling these off because they were hot. And then this guy comes down on top, which looks like I may actually have some clearance issues right there that I didn't account for. So I will take just a little bit of material off. Okay, so we finally have the engine mounts for the TDI swapped Cherokee done. Took me way longer than expected to get those done. Partly because, one, I just was slow at doing them. No, part of the reason I was super busy with work. I've been helping some family move over the last couple days. So it's been a little hectic. So, I mean, it took me like, well, before I powdered them, it took me like maybe about a week to get them done, which again, I'm only working on this stuff in the evenings, some weekends, but been super busy with other stuff. So it doesn't take a ton of time to do it. Realistically, if you had maybe 2 days, you could knock them out. If you go with a less complex design than what I came up with, it might take a lot less time. The way I did them, I'm really happy with them. They're extremely overbuilt, which is not a bad thing. Did I add a little bit of weight? Absolutely. The steel's probably a little bit thicker than it needs to be. I've got a lot of support and bracing, but I don't have to worry about them, which is the great news. So this is what they look like. I did powder coat them. I didn't do that on video because I just totally forgot to video. I just did it one day when I was working on a guy's project for him. I just went ahead and powder coated them at the same time so they'd be done. So this is what they look like. Again, this was a semi-gloss black from Prismatic Coatings. Just a quick, heavy, thick coat on them, nothing pretty, but they came out great. Just a one coat wonder, and I'm super happy how they look. So here they are, as you can obviously see. Again, these are the, I don't even know, they have a brand on them. Wester, I don't even know. It's just a engine mount. It's about 1.5 inches thick. I don't have any rhyme or reason why they did one side with like a hexagon and one side round, but honestly, if this ends up getting in my way, it has a little bit of rubber, but realistically, you could trim some of the sharp edges off there to get some clearance if you needed it. But in my case, this is fine, works fine. So these are the engine plates that you already saw me build that go on the TDI. So this one goes and sits like this on the, oh, my bad. This one sits like this on the driver's side of the engine mount. And then this one sits like that on the passenger mount. So not uniform in any way, shape, or form. I mean, these are massively different. These guys are the Jeep mounts. These are also not really uniform. Maybe you could have made them more like a, you know, copy of one side versus the other. I don't really know. I just kind of designed each and every side depending upon, you know, what worked best with my setup. And actually, no, I couldn't have, because these mounts being so different were on just completely different places on the engine block itself. So these had to have different tongues and stuff in different areas. As I mentioned in the video earlier, I didn't love how skinny this tongue was. I mean, I have no problem with it, but my mounts are almost the same size. So I had to kind of get creative. I had to kind of wallow out a little bit of it and kind of do one mount just on the total edge of the wing. These are not the prettiest things, but good night. They're beefy, they're thick, fully welded. I ground off the weld. You know, you can kind of see kind of a crappy grind job, but I smoothed out the welds on the backs and stuff so it would sit nice and tight up against the Jeep, and then left those weld beads there just for strength. I mean, it's plenty strong enough, you know, not going anywhere. So this is passenger side mount. This is the driver's side mount. And you may be wondering why one of these has 3 holes and this one only has 2. One of the holes on the passenger side mount wasn't threaded. I think I might be able to tap it. This hole on the driver's side, which would be roughly about here, I need to double check. I don't know if that one had a hole mount spot. I know I had one obviously here and there, and you can see I kind of didn't get that hole placement perfect, but it's got the top 2 holes, which will hold it, the leverage down. These guys will kind of pull it back to the fender well, or to the unibody, I'm sorry. And realistically, guys, I could bolt these on if I was ever really nervous about it, just to be extra, as much as I would hate to. Could kind of grind off the, you know, the powder on the sides and weld them to the unibody. That's not planning on going that route. I mean, I think this is more than enough for what I need, but if you really wanted to, you could bolt and weld, and then at least you know that, hey, it's bolted how the factory one was bolted, essentially. I just slid back farther, and that held an engine that's, I think, almost 100 or 120 pounds heavier than the TDI. So not worried about it at all, but if you really wanted to, you could go that route. So I am not going to install these in this video just because this video is already kind of long, and I'm trying my best to get videos out a little bit more often, just to try to be a little more consistent, and that way my phone or my camera and computer aren't getting cluttered up with footage. So that's going to be it for this video. And so here's the engine in the Jeep. Obviously you've already seen this. I've got just some rags kind of poked down in the holes, which kind of almost looks like something's been munching on them, but that's okay. We're going to be putting the manifold on there at the same time probably the engine's out. So I have just a big rubber block and then a piece of metal, and that's actually almost the exact height the engine's going to sit. It might be up like another ½ inch. I have already checked. I've got hood clearance for when it closes. The intake sits up about, about that high, pretty similar to that. So I have just a rag over the mechanical injection pump right there. And then left to right wise, this is almost perfect. I don't remember exactly which way it's going to swivel a little bit. I think once I put the engine mounts in, I need to push the transmission over just a hair to get it pretty close to being, perfectly in line with the front of the body. But it doesn't have to be, honestly, dead center. Drive shaft will help take up some of that if you don't get it exactly perfect. I don't have a laser leveler or anything, so you've got a little bit of fudge room, but I'm trying to make it look to the eye at least perfectly straight. So at some point I still do need to get a new timing belt on there, but that'll probably just wait because I want to keep plugging along on this thing and spending the money on the other stuff. Last thing I need to do on this is trim that part of the bell housing. That is totally normal with this adapter. Don't stress if you see that. You've got to just kind of basically cut this out and back about, I don't know, maybe it's an inch and a half on the bell housing itself back here. So that is totally normal. So most of the adapters now, I thought Whitbread sold this, but maybe not. They sell like a little like metal or aluminum cover piece that goes over there. You just silicone it to keep junk out. So once we get that cut, I'm not stressing that. We'll cut that out, make sure the starter fits on the next, you know, fitment of it in the Jeep. And then we'll just go ahead and, you know, make a little cover and silicone it, or, you know, just something to hold it on there to keep it from, you know, keep it dry from the starter and everything like that. So a lot of wiring and junk I still need to go through, but we're really just going to leave all that alone, leave all this alone for now, and, you know, start once this is all in, get the turbo on, intake, radiator sits like right in here, intercooler, once I get the, you know, bumper and stuff back on, will probably sit about right in here. So we're going to have a ton of space, which almost looks dorky, but it don't matter because this thing will be so nice and easy to work on with all that room. So this guy's coming out tomorrow. Power steering lines do work. You just have to buy, I believe it's a line. I don't remember if you have to buy a line off of this that fits up here. I don't remember exactly. Return line just is a slip fitting, and then that guy threads on. So we'll obviously get to all that when we get to that point. So a lot of this stuff is going to go together pretty fast. We'll cover the fuel system when I get to the fuel system and how we're going to do that. But it's just a lot of welding and cutting pipes and stitching stuff together. But next, I do want to go for the first start. We're not going to probably try to drive it because some of the clutch and stuff I still need to tinker with. It's got an internal, like a hydraulic master in there, so I've got to bleed all that. I've got to get a few things figured out there so we can at least get the Jeep to fire up, maybe put it in gear, start it, you know, and make sure it rolls, whatever. So that's up next after we get this whole thing set back in with it on the mounts and everything like that. So thanks again, guys, for watching. Like, subscribe, please. Trying to grow the channel a little bit this year, but I know my super inconsistent upload schedule makes it difficult, but I'm having fun doing it, and I'm getting to do what I really love, and projects like this are a blast to me. So we've got a long road to go on this thing, so bear with me. It's a time-consuming process, but I do think it's going to start rolling faster now once we get the engine under its own weight and everything, you know, mount-wise is bolted in and hooked up. So stay good, guys, and thanks for tuning in. Peace.